Hello, I'm Jared Taylor with American Renaissance. Last week's riots in Charlotte, North Carolina were not about police brutality. They were not about racism. They're about something else. Actually, black riots are always about something else. And if our rulers weren't deliberately ignorant, they might begin to catch on. So what happened in Charlotte? Last Tuesday, a 43-year-old black man, Keith Scott, ignored repeated orders by the police to drop a gun. An officer then shot him. Scott's wife, Rakia, who was taking a video from a distance, swears he didn't have a gun, was just reading a book. Police recovered a stolen gun with Scott's blood on it, and the gent who stole the gun says he sold it to Scott. Scott doesn't actually sound like the bookish sort to me. He did 8 years in a Texas prison for assault with a deadly weapon and has a conviction in North Carolina for the same crime. No book was found at the scene. A year ago, wife Rakia even got a restraining order against Scott because he carried a gun, told her he is a killer, had attacked her and one of their 7 children, and had threatened to kill them. But last Tuesday, she stood by her man and insisted that he was only improving his mind. One more detail. The Charlotte police chief, who is black, announced very early on that the officer who had done the shooting was also black. Well, as soon as word got out, blacks gathered and started shouting, "Black Lives Matter" and "No justice, no peace." They set fires. They stopped cars and jumped on them. They looted a Walmart and several other stores. They stopped all lanes of Interstate 85, jumped on more cars, broke into 18-wheelers, and burned the cargo. Drivers turned around on the interstate and fled into oncoming traffic, which could have been really dangerous. Next night, same thing. At least a dozen stores were ransacked, ATM machines looted. This time, Interstate 277 was shut down. Windows were smashed and employees punched at downtown hotels, such as the Hilton Garden Inn, Hampton Inn, and Hyatt House, no doubt ensuring indelible memories of Charlotte for out-of-town visitors. That same night, Justin Carr took a bullet to the head and later died. Of course, the Charlotte Clergy Coalition for Justice accused the police of shooting him. But the next day, Raekwon Borum, who has a felony record, admitted that he shot Carr. Anyway, the governor declared a state of emergency and the National Guard was called out. The State Bureau of Investigation and the Justice Department have opened investigations, not into the rioting, of course, who cares about that, but into the police shooting. The media are squeamish about this, but the riots and the violence were clearly anti-white. A reporter found the brother of the man the police shot and asked him, "Is there anything we should know?" Here is his reply.
Just know that all white people are fucking devils.
And make sure you air that one.
Air that shit.
Now. Don't take that
all
one
white cops are fucking devils and white people.
A protester was approached by TV cameras, and once he was assured that yes, he was on live TV, he explained that white people are, quote, barbaric, and that white lives don't matter. Another black explained that the rioters should head for the white suburbs because, quote, the people with the money are there. Blacks cornered whites and beat them up. They attacked 3 white TV newsmen, sending one of them to the hospital. So let's summarize. A black officer who works for a black police chief shoots a black criminal holding what was probably a black gun. No white people involved, but blacks shout about racism anyway. They riot, loot, burn, and vent their hatred of white people. Is this some new frontier in black craziness? You can go all the way back to the Watts riots of 1965 and you'll always find some white chump who gets the blame for setting the spark. Usually it's a policeman. Most of the time he didn't do anything wrong, but the man was there, at least in token form. Newark in 1967, the King assassination riots in 1968, which affected 125 cities, by the way. And then skip up to the big Miami riots of 1980, 1991, Rodney King riots in 1992, Cincinnati in 2001, clear up to Ferguson in 2014, there's always been some white guy somewhere to blame and to hate. Things got a little fuzzy last year in Baltimore. 6 officers were indicted for Freddie Gray's death, and 3 of them were black, and they got the heaviest charges. And it was still a good excuse to holler about racism and do some early back-to-school shopping. But in Charlotte, no white people involved. Blacks still hollered about racism and did some back-to-school shopping. For Hillary and the New York Times, the absence of white people seems to have been a mere technicality. They're still hollering about racism too. The fact is, Charlotte is not a new frontier. A police shooting is just a pretext, and blacks don't even need a pretext. Remember the flash mobs of a couple of years ago? Young blacks would group up and then go on a rampage, robbing and beating up white people. Louisville, Kentucky had them over and over. There was a bad one at the Iowa State Fair in 2015. Kansas City had flash mobs 3 weekends in a row, with as many as 1,000 teenagers terrorizing white people. Here's a black mob attacking a driver in Philadelphia. Chicago, Denver, Milwaukee, Memphis, Cleveland, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., they all had flash mobs. Now, here is a white people flash mob. 100 girls dancing in Piccadilly Circus. A variant on the flash mob is for 20 or 30 blacks to file into a convenience store, ransack the shelves, and clear out. It's also called mob and rob. Here's what was left of a store in Davidsonville, Maryland, last year after blacks got finished with it. 4th of July is a great time for mobs. Once the fireworks are over, it's dark. Lots of unsuspecting white people are walking around. Boom! Rob them. Beat them up. Blacks can just be out celebrating. For 3 years in a row in the 1990s, when the Chicago Bulls won the NBA title, there were serious riots. You see, the principle is very simple. Whenever you have a crowd of blacks, especially young blacks, there's a pretty good chance they'll riot. And when blacks riot, white people, watch out. And a riot is always a chance for some back-to-school shopping. Now, blacks claim they are protesting police violence, and the media believe them. But the truth is, fish swim and birds fly. North Carolina Congressman Robert Pittenger got it right during the Charlotte riots when he said that blacks, quote, hate white people because white people are successful and they're not. He later apologized, of course, for telling the truth, but that is why they riot. They're not successful, and we are. The entire media and political class tell them that their failures are the fault of white people. Your fault, my fault. And so they deserve to be angry. And until that changes, there will be more black riots coming to a neighborhood near you. Thanks for watching.